Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Coprolites podcast, where we take shit seriously. Tonight on the agenda, we're going to be talking about feathered dinosaurs. Now, feathered dinosaurs is a pretty hot topic today. A lot of newer films and TV shows and things like that about dinosaurs are incorporating feathers a lot more into into their concepts. Like Terra had feathered dinosaurs, and all these newer documentaries like Dinosaur Revolution has had feathered dinosaurs. So feathered dinosaurs here, feathered dinosaurs there. So tonight with us we have David Purdue, Marty Kevil.
Hello.
And then, of course, myself, Rick Charles. So what do you guys think about feathered dinosaurs?
All right, who's going first?
You can go first.
Nothing to say, I guess.
Okay. My take on feathered dinosaurs is that there's a lot of, how should I say, misconceptions about it, and that there's misconceptions coming from assumptions, because a lot of people either A, don't understand that dinosaurs did have feathers, but B, there are some people who assume that all dinosaurs have feathers because some of them do, and there's a lot of fossil evidence that does not support that.
So you're saying that regardless of the fossil evidence, there's basically, you're looking at two opposite ends of a spectrum here, where you have totally anti-feathered people versus the totally pro-feathered people, right? Is it something like that's going on?
Pretty much, because at school, for example, I was drawing one dinosaur, no dinosaur in particular, just like a random genre, like based off Troodon. It had feathers, and some of my classmates were looking at it, and they were like, why does that dinosaur have like hair and stuff? What is that? I was saying they were proto feathers, and they're like, wow, I did not know dinosaurs had feathers. A good deal of people who, how should I say, aren't particularly interested in dinosaurs and don't do a lot of, research and stuff, pretty much what they fall back on is what's in movies. And those, in general, you don't see the feathers in there because a lot of movies are sort of generally old and dated. People don't usually mess around with dinosaurs as much as they should.
That's true. And it is kind of, and it's almost weird to think about, because all of us three here, we come from a background where we have a big enthusiasm for paleontology. And so we come from the perspective where we've known about the whole concept of feathered dinosaurs. It's gone back years, almost as far back as the dinosaur renaissance in the 60s. So, for us, it's like people who don't know that some dinosaurs were feathered. It's a totally foreign concept to us. But I think, and I'm guilty of this myself, is I simply just don't realize how ignorant the public is. And I'm not saying that offensively, but just out of lack of understanding how ignorant the general public is about the whole idea of feathered dinosaurs and the paleontological evidence that goes into that.
Yeah, to add on to that, it's like they literally just don't know. Like the guy was saying to me, it's like he doesn't disagree or anything. He just did not know that was how it was. And I was like, yes. Yeah. I was telling him some of the raptor dinosaurs and other theropods have been known to have feathers. He was like, oh, that's weird. And it's weird to him because he's just not used to seeing dinosaurs like that.
Yeah, because their only idea of dinosaurs, I suppose, comes basically from Jurassic Park. And apparently some of the newer stuff that like some of the stuff I just mentioned, like Dinosaur Revolution and Terra Nova, apparently haven't had that much of an impact, especially in the shadow of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I know the main topic is feathers here, so I'll try not to get too too off topic, but Terra Nova, I actually was really excited for when they first were announcing it and the first episodes that came out. I actually really had high hopes for that. I was hoping for it to be something like an American version of Primeval. Like, I wanted us to have our own show that was about dinosaurs, and it ended up like they just stopped it. I thought that was so terrible.
Well, the show downgraded midway through.
Yeah, I mean, it was, every episode was hit and miss. But with regards to the feathers themselves, I think Terra Nova was one of the first, one of the first works of fiction that wasn't like, like a creative documentary like Dinosaur Revolution or something. It was really the first sci-fi that really brought forward the idea of feathered dinosaurs. But not only was the show ended up not being very popular, I mean, I guess it was canceled because the budget was too high, not necessarily because of views, but I guess that's aside the point. Apparently, the feathered dinosaurs it presented just didn't have a big enough impact. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I know that in my own opinion, first of all, their feathered dinosaurs were terrible. They were what's called gorilla suit dinosaurs, and that's a term that we paleo enthusiasts have for our viewers who might not know. When we call a dinosaur gorilla suited, we basically say that a dinosaur that was supposed to have been feathered, instead of feathering it, quote, accurately, we basically throw feathers on them without any rhyme or reason or structure to the way that they're feathered, and we say, oh, look, a feathered dinosaur, it's accurate. And that's what Terra Nova did. They didn't take into consideration, different types of wing feathers like primaries and secondaries and things like that. They didn't give any structure to their feathers, and so their feathered dinosaurs ended up just looking ugly. That's the way I see it, and I don't know if that had a big impact on how the idea of feathered dinosaurs was received in Terra Nova or not, but that's the way I received it.
I could definitely agree with that because, like you were saying, the dinosaurs were just kind of ugly. And in a movie, in a TV show like that, it's one thing really important to actually design the dinosaurs. You have to be very careful how you make them, because when it comes down to it, no matter how well written the characters are, the people are going into the movie or TV show for the dinosaurs. So if it doesn't meet their expectations, or if it doesn't come out right, the entire show can fall apart. So that probably is part of what happened to Terra Nova, especially since, how we were saying, most people aren't really used to the idea of feathered dinosaurs. Them not really getting it right also sort of messes it up, because it's like they're, what are the audience supposed? How are they supposed to respond to that? Because I do know in a couple episodes they actually did use made up dinosaurs and not official and not like legitimate taxon. That's probably also something that was a shoe against them, because then like they would the slasher was one.
Yeah, and see, I don't think it's necessarily that they made up their own dinosaurs. It's that the dinosaurs they made up sucked. Quite honestly, the slasher was ugly and it had a very ineffective anatomy. So it was just a very poorly designed creature, in my opinion.
Yeah, they had a large Spinosaur that was like called Empirosaurus or something, and it pretty much looked like Jurassic Park Spinosaurus. Like
pretty much.
Well, like I thought it was Spinosaurus when I saw it, and I was like, "What's this guy doing here?" I saw Carnotaurus in another episode. Spino should be gone. He shouldn't be here. What's he doing? He's like, "I'm back."
Back from the dead.
That squidgy jawed bitch.
But yeah, I think that that might have also been Terra Nova's issue, was that they were not using real dinosaurs, so they started to lose favor with paleo enthusiasts like us, and we're the kinds of people who would really help push that show, because we would be helping to educate other people about dinosaurs and using that show as a means of getting their attention. And when they lose favor with us, they lose the other people, because the other people can relate to what they're trying to do through us, helping them understand.
Well, the problem ultimately lies in the education system. Students aren't exposed to anything Dinosauria related in their high schools, or if you take selected courses in college,
that
culture doesn't really help either. Because when making these shows, you don't get actual, like, paleo consultants. It's just people who are, like, creature designers. They don't really have that big of a background in biology. Because you can make dinosaurs feathered and be very convincing, and if you have a big background in biology.
Yeah. And I know part of Terra Nova's problem is, like you said, they must have just had a bunch of, creature concept artists who didn't have a good background in biology, and the consultant they got, I believe, was Jack Horner, wasn't it?
Yes, and that still baffles me.
Yeah, and I think the problem with him is, like, he also was the consultant for all the Jurassic Park films. And I think the problem he has is, at least I saw that a bit with Terra Nova, I just get the impression that he wasn't so much a consultant as he was just there to give him the thumbs up on whatever the hell they did, and, get his paycheck for it.
Yeah.
Like it was part of his contract to just thumbs up for random crap they came up with,
Because when they were doing Jurassic Park 3, they asked him, well, how should we feather this, And he said, well, your guess is as good as mine. Not being a very helpful paleo consultant, so he probably must have just been there to thumbs up shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, as far as paleo consultants go, if I was doing something and I wanted, like, Thomas Holt's opinion, if this man told me what I was doing did not make sense and was wrong, I would actually really like that. It sucks because I'd be back to the drawing board and I'd have to start over, but the point is I would like something that is actually of merit to someone of his stature or anybody's stature who knows what they're talking about, knows what they're looking at. They know what to look for when it, you want. The whole point of having a consultant is so that what you make actually holds up.
Well, you need to have a good story, too, because with The Walking with Dinosaurs 3D, the dinosaurs were very
Why'd you have to mention that?
Because it's relevant.
It's patchy time.
Oh.
He likes my hole.
All right, guys.
But seriously, though. The dinosaurs are very accurate in that movie, but the story just sucked, and the voiceovers, but that's besides the fact.
The story of Walking with Dinosaurs 3D, if I may, it's just, the reason it sucks is because it's very, how should I say, it's a very played out story. It's the young dinosaur, always a herbivore. He's like, the weakest of the herd or whatever, and he becomes the leader. That's been done many times in dinosaur history, and just in the history of dinosaurs and media, and that's why it doesn't feel as strong, because they didn't take any real chances to do anything like, I don't know, a story about Troodon or something, or literally a story about the Gorgosaurus. Like they were just trying to, I don't know,
ultimately it comes down to good characters, though.
It
that's
does.
what Jurassic Park did well.
Yeah.
And that's why it's stuck into the minds of so many people.
Yep.
And it's become a classic. It was a good story.
Yep.
Even
and
if
see,
they were scaly.
Here's what bothers me is, because people have this idea of scaly dinosaurs ingrained in their heads from Jurassic Park, people have this idea that, feathers aren't scary and that you can't have a scary movie monster dinosaur that has feathers. But as you were saying, what makes Jurassic Park so good is its characters and its story, regardless of the elements used to tell that story or develop those characters. If you had something equivalent to Jurassic Park with feathered dinosaurs, I'm certain it would have the same impact,
And honestly, just model the behaviors off of animals we know today. Make the Deinonychus, a feather completely accurate. Make it more akin to, like, say, an eagle, or how it eats.
So cool.
Yeah, like pinning you down and taking chunks out of you. Whether or not it's scaly is not going to matter. Or like a T-Rex.
Really?
Yeah, like a feathered T-Rex. You're still going to run. You're still going to crack your pants. So it's all about execution.
I honestly think, guys, I do agree with the notion of the execution is what makes it effective. I actually do think that having feathered dinosaurs in a franchise like Jurassic Park might actually have more of an effect than using the more traditional scaly dinosaurs, because the main idea and the theme of Jurassic Park is that technology has brought these animals back or something similar to them, and there's this very cutting edge nature to Jurassic Park, just inherently, just the ability to do this, to like restore creatures at least, maybe not 100%, but like to the ability to do that. So having the dinosaurs be as accurate as they can for the story's intents, it would actually add a lot to them aesthetically. Because
Agreed.
I do agree that since the dinosaurs are supposed to have DNA filled in with like modern animals, they might come out a little bit spicy in the sort of the scalier take on dinosaurs. It makes a lot of sense for the story, but just like in general, if someone wanted to like actually redo the Jurassic Park series, I think that putting feathers on certain dinosaurs actually would not be bad at all, especially the Velociraptor.
Well, yeah, and I'll just say this real quick too. Obviously, Jurassic Park is outdated, and our understanding of dinosaurs has advanced quite a bit beyond Jurassic Park, what Jurassic Park presents. And as Jurassic Park fans, what we've a kind of the idea that the Jurassic Park fandom has come up with for the Jurassic Park dinosaurs is that, well, as opposed to having been genetically created accurate to real dinosaurs, they were genetically engineered to match what people thought dinosaurs were back then, to make them more appealing to the audience of Jurassic Park, which would have been the guests of that time period that would have gone to the park, if it had ever been endorsed and opened. But
that does actually make a lot of sense, and I do think that really helps the sort of accuracy issues that Jurassic Park has, because it's like, especially when you consider the Velociraptor, people are always like, it was so much smaller than that. But when you think about it, it's like, if you're going to this park, Jurassic Park, and you want to see the dinosaur, it shouldn't be something tiny that you can't see, because you have to drive by it in a vehicle. You're not going to be able to see it if it was the actual size it was.
And two, I guess it was a thought I had, but I just lost it. I don't know. Let me see if I can get it back. Didn't this happen last time to me too?
Yes.
It happens to everybody.
It seems to happen to me, especially whenever we're doing the podcast. It always likes to attack me. I'm not sure why I have to be the victim every time.
If I may go slightly off topic, I do want to discuss the extent of feathers on dinosaurs, because there are some people out there who believe that every single dinosaur had some type of feathery integument, when we know that's not true.
Yeah, let's bust that.
Carnotaurus, Ceratosaurus, and Monosaurus.
I was just going to bring that up, actually.
Yeah, I forgot what it was I was reading. It was some article. I was looking the comments because I wanted to see who would talk about it. It was about dinosaurs. And there was only one person who made a comment, and he said that most dinosaurs were feathered. And I wanted to respond to him, but for some reason I didn't feel like he would listen to anything I'd have to say. So just like I would like to use this podcast to sort of address that idea, because like Marty was saying, we have skin impressions from Edmontosaurus, which is a herbivorous dinosaur, and let's see, it did not have feathers, did it? It had a lot of scales, right?
Yes, and while they could bring up the argument that it had very fine feathers. Well, that's a valid argument, but there's no evidence for it. So
yeah,
and two, like I'm sure by herbivorous dinosaur you mean like ornithischian, but it is important to consider too that we're talking not necessarily about we're talking more about it's the different groups of dinosaurs, taxonomic groups of dinosaurs that were feathered or not. I mean, because certainly there may have been ornithischians that ate meat at least some of the time, and certainly there were feathered theropods that were primarily herbivorous. I guess it just there's no way of knowing that for sure unless we have like stomach contents or coprolites. But because the fact is, like, theoretically speaking, in fact, wasn't there some type of herbivorous ceratosaur that was discovered recently?
Limusaurus or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And of course, that's not one of the theropod dinosaurs that was probably feathered.
No, it was
because when we're talking about feathered dinosaurs, we're usually talking about all the dinosaurs within the group Silurosauria. Those are all the dinosaurs that to date we have physical evidence of them being feathered. And there is, of course, Sauromymus, squirrel mimic, which I guess its classification is debatable at this point.
Yeah, last time I checked, it was actually a Silurosauр, not a megalosaur like it initially was.
Yeah, and so as far as we know, feathers only in dinosaurs, feathers only exist within Silurosauria. And then, of course, there's some of the other structures some of the ornithischians had, like Psittacosaurus had those quill-like structures on its tail and things like that. But those aren't conclusively feathers or anything related to feathers, quite frankly. Especially considering they're ornithischians, which are totally different branch of Dinosauria from Saurischia and the theropods.
Yes, definitely.
Right. And we have relatives of Psittacosaurus, like Triceratops, and wasn't there a few other ceratopsians? But for the most part, the most skin and impressions we have of ceratopsians were Triceratops, and it was primarily scaly.
Right. Yeah, and there's no evidence. There's no evidence really to even infer through phylogenetics that ceratopsians had structures like that. Even really the quill-like structures of Psittacosaurs. So personally, I'm not the kind of person to put feathers on any dinosaur outside of Silurosauria. I would really, I would go as far as to put quills stemming from quill knobs on dinosaurs like Allosaurus and Spinosaurus, but those aren't definitively feathers. Maybe a kind of just not really a scale, but not really a feather, just kind of a keratinous structure that might be intermediary between the two, but not quite. I'd be willing to do that because, of course, that is speculative, but it's not saying, hey, I'm feathering my Spinosaurs or anything like that,
Yeah, that if I may, that's definitely something that I can respect because in a lot of my drawings of Allosaurus, I admit they're stylized, but I do so with a speculation that I think cannot be particularly proven wrong with evidence. See, when I draw Allosaurus, I exaggerate the size of the crest, and I give it a lot of adornment on the face in the likes of scales. So they have this very kind of this very ornamental sort of a arrangement of spines along their jaw and neck and leading up to the crest just for display purposes. And pretty much the reason I do that is because they're scales, and since we do not have any, I don't think we have anything for the integument of Allosaurs. I think that they probably had mostly scales, so I decided that if they were going to have display structures on their bodies, they would end up being made out of keratinous scales. And because, especially considering that we know they had crests because of the skull, but whenever you look at the crests are really small, I believe that the crests would have been bigger in life, and that instead of being made out of bone, they're made out of keratin.
Yeah.
And what really grinds my gears is people start feathering Dilophosaurus and Coelophysis. There's no evidence for that whatsoever, and I doubt feathers would have evolved that early. That means it was a basal trait for every theropod, and we know that's not the case because Carnotaurus and Ceratosaurus, among others, have been known to have primarily scales.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That really gets on my nerves. Because
and I have to confess that I'm actually guilty of having feathered a Cryolophosaurus once.
You monster.
Yeah, really. I didn't do it. I didn't have any good argument to support it. I guess I was mostly just thinking, well, this dinosaur may have lived in a colder environment and feathers kind of look cool on it, so hey, whatever. But now I wouldn't so much as put proto feathers on Dilophosaurus or Cryolophosaurus or any of those, especially primitive dinosaurs that far from the dinosaur lineage.
That's how I feel. It's because those dinosaurs are so primitive that I don't think they would have it. Because, like Marty was saying, that would mean it would be like a basal trait. Because also considering when you're dealing with something like Coelophysis or Dilophosaurus, they're not that far from the prosauropods. So if you consider, if they have the feathers, then you could kind of infer that prosauropods probably would too, and that would just be a basal dinosaur trait from the start. But since they're so primitive, it's like, would that just be an Archosaurian trait? Like, where did the feathers come from? Would be the issue.
Well, and that's what some people do speculate, is that the pycnofibers of pterosaurs, the structures, the quill-like structures of ornithischians, and then the feathers of saurischians are all derived from the same basal structures, and I just don't see that connection at all.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. Because
yeah, like my biggest issue with the idea of the feathers being basal to Archosauria is when you have things like those crocodiliomorph kind of things, like the Rossuchians, the Dermatossuchus, like all those, like the Adasaurs, all those Triassic reptiles, the Phytosaurs, like I don't know, because they're included in Archosauria, and I just have trouble imagining like the feathers coming around so early on in the evolution of Archosaurs. Like,
I think feathers are an exclusively Dinosauria trait.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think there's skin impressions of at least crocodilians from the Cretaceous, and none of them show feathers.
And of course, you'd think that crocodilians today, if feathers or feather, or things that eventually became feathers, I guess you could say, if those were basal to Archosauria, then you would expect crocodilians as well as turtles, because turtles are of course considered archosaurs now.
Are they?
They are. Didn't we discuss that earlier?
We actually
before?
did not, because I know the turtles and tortoises, they're anapsids, and I believe all the archosaurs are technically synapsids.
Well, I remember reading something recently that turtles were reclassified as archosaurs. There was actually a big stink about it too. It made a few headlines and stuff.
Yeah.
I have actually never heard this until now.
Do you remember that, Marty?
I stay away from turtles. That shit's so complex. I don't even bother with it right now.
Well then, yeah, okay. But at any rate, crocodilians, you'd expect there to be some evidence that they were at one point feathered or, covered in a structure that, was feather-like at some point.
Yeah, like there would have to be something vestigial left over at least, because you know how like with some of the large constrictor snakes, they have the little spurs on their legs that are, vestigial from their actual having legs in previous forms.
But of course, like whales, like Pachycetus may have very well been furred, but whales, big marine whales, don't have any fur. So you could say, oh, well, maybe crocodilians, just lost all their feathers, because they became semi-aquatic. But at the same time, they have heavily armored bodies with not just scales, but many of their scutes are actually, under bone on underneath,
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot of room for feathers on crocodilians. I just don't see that kind of. I just don't see feathers really being, because you'd expect to see some. Like maybe at least if crocodiles just had naked, leathery, blubbery type skin like whales or something, you'd think, okay, well, maybe they at one point had something besides scales covering their bodies. But no, you don't see that.
And you don't just re-evolve scales either. So if you had a fleshy, naked body, you wouldn't just all of a sudden just start regrowing scales. And you can also say the same thing for Spinosaurids, because for the most part, semi-aquatic or aquatic animals have very fine or absolutely no hair whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
So it also kind of irks me when I see like these very fluffy Spinosaurs. Well, now just lay them down.
Man. Yeah, I see, not just Spinosaurs, but just all sorts of dinosaurs, like especially on DeviantArt, there's all these paleo artists who just go like all out with feathering every kind of dinosaur they get their hands on.
Oh, I know.
And it's so disagreeable to me.
Yeah, I actually once saw a picture of a feathered sauropod, and I thought that was bizarre. It didn't look right at all.
Scale impressions for them.
Yeah, it's just paleontologically, like if there was a shred of paleontological evidence that sauropods were feathered, I would say, okay, this is a possibility. And I mean, it still looks cool to me. I think it does look pretty cool, feathered Spinosaurs and everything, but I'm not willing to even give that a possibility, because there's absolutely no evidence for it, and it's not even something you can infer without having to jump through some major hoops.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the aesthetics and the accuracy clash, because it's like you want it to look cool, so you add something to it. But it's like at the same time you're sacrificing the realism of the animal by doing so.
I think feathers were a strictly Saurian thing, and maybe Heterodinosaurian or Ornithischian. I butchered that fucking word.
Well, you have to consider too that Saurischians and Ornithischians branch off so early.
Yeah, but you could also argue with that it's a sort of convergent evolution. It's like instead of having the actual feathers that we see in the Saurian theropods, some of the Ornis, whatever the hell they are, some of them they get their equivalent of it, which is like this sort of quill-like things we see on like the Psittacosaurus, and Marty was saying like heterodontosaurs, maybe they had something similar to that as well.
Similar, but I mean, they would only superficially be feathers. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah. And do we have any? I don't think we have any evidence of quill knobs on the forearms like Dinosaurs for any.
Well, yeah, I see what she's saying. Well, that's another thing too. It's, you know, like we were discussing before with Terra Nova, for a feathered dinosaur to look right, you can't just gorilla suit the thing. There has to be a rhyme and a reason to their feather. There has to be a structure, a body plan, you know, rules you follow, you know.
Nature is all about rules. I completely agree with that.
When you look at birds today, such as flightless birds anyway, such as like ostriches and emus and kiwis, and you know, their wings are extremely reduced and, you know, useless for flying, but all their feathers are still there. They still have the primaries and the secondaries, and just their whole wing structure is there. It's just extremely reduced. And that to me says, you know, even dinosaurs where there's – even Silurisaurians where there's no direct evidence that they had wings on their forearms doesn't mean to say they didn't, because – even if they couldn't use them for flying or anything, you know, just by principle of following a blueprint, they would be there. That's what I think.
I think the best example was the ornithomimosaurids, who were only recently proven to have primaries.
Yeah. And, like, I see a lot of people, and of course Troodontids, there's not really a doubt in my mind that they had primary feathers. But like a while ago, I was looking through one of the more recent National Geographic magazines, and there was an article in there on New Mexican dinosaurs. I think that was the article, and it was illustrated by everyone's favorite paleo artist, Ralph Martin. And sure. I was surprised to see that he actually feathered his troodontid this time.
Wow! Holy crap!
Yeah, and the only problem was the feathers stopped right when the hand started.
Oh no!
And I was like, that's not how you do it. It's like he feathered, but he committed a gorilla suit.
And that could bring up another question. Why are these professionals not feathering their animals correctly?
Oh, man. It's
a very select few that actually do, and not widely known.
It just takes a little bit of research to get it right, but
it takes like 2 minutes.
I know. 2 minutes, you know, look it up, you know, the wing structure of a Deinonychosaur, and boom, you have an accurately feathered troodontid, if you get the anatomy right, of course.
Yeah.
But then too, I also see a lot of people doing the same thing with like the Therizinosaurs and the Tyrannosaurs, where they feather everything but the hands and they leave out the wings. And I think just based on that general principle of complying with the blueprint body plan, that Tyrannosaurs would have very likely had primary feathers as well. Ditto with Therizinosaurs. You know, they might have not been very prominent. Maybe they would have just been little quill stubs sticking out of their fingers, but nevertheless, I think they should be there. You know, and I don't know if you guys see that the same way I do, but that's just how I look at it.
I will admit, I am guilty about the not feathering correctly on a Therizinosaur.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Like, I will admit, I'm not 100% on how to feather a dinosaur, but at the same time, I'm still transitioning over to get, like, sort of. Well, no, like I accept that there were dinosaurs with feathers, so it's not like I have an issue with that. But like actually integrating that into my art, I'm still transitioning.
How extensive was Tyrannus's primaries? Do we have the impressions of its arms, or just its body overall?
If here, let me pull it up. I actually have my blog pulled up here because I was working on it, and so I actually did discuss that a little bit. And let's see if I can find where I discussed that, because I did discuss that here.
Yeah, because I always feather my Tyrannosaurids now. I don't like the scaly ones anymore.
No,
it's very unnatural
absolutely
looking.
not. Yeah, it really.
I'd be fine with naked skin, but
yeah. Okay, I do have a source. I can go pull up the source, Zoo et al. 2012, and that will help. But I do remember it being quite extensive. I mean, we're talking head to tail covering in feathers,
right,
on Tyrannus. So, definitely not sparse by any definition.
Oh no.
And I'm not sure how specific this abstract will get, and I don't know if I have access to the actual publication, but
that's another thing. They should be free for the public. Maybe that's why they don't know anything.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, that's the largest feathered dinosaur we know of.
Yeah. Okay, and the hands, the forelimbs were preserved on the specimens of Tyrannus that were uncovered. But the abstract does not say just how extensive the feathering that was preserved was. So,
darn.
But it's being Salurosaurs, I would just say Tyrannosaurs were extensively feathered. And here's another thing too. I did not mean to just close that tab. But here's another thing too. There's a lot of people who a lot of bandits, which for our viewers who don't know what that means, those are birds are not dinosaurs activists. There's a lot of bandits who like to throw out the whole skin impression of T-Rex thing. Because there was this skin impression of T-Rex that was found, and it was described in a book. And I believe it is in Paul Sereno's possession now, paleontologist Paul Sereno.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone likes to say, oh, this is an obvious, scaly impression of T-Rex's skin. And, so T-Rex was scaled in at least some area of its body. But the thing is, and I'm going to try and pull up a picture here for you.
You're talking about, like, elephant skin or...
Well, no, I'm actually, I'll send you guys a picture, and then we can maybe even put this one in the podcast once we get it edited. But if you this plucked chicken here.
Oh, okay.
I
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, how they have all those little knobs where the feathers stuck out from.
Right.
When you fully pluck a chicken, they look like they have scales, but it's actually just those knobs in the skin where the feathers belonged. And Paul Sereno, or let me double check if that is actually him who. Yeah, it was Paul Sereno.
I know there's a dewlap preserved for Tarbosaurus that's scaly.
There is, yeah, and this specimen, this T-Rex impression, Paul Sereno actually described the scale-like structures, quote quote, as tiny bumps between 1 and 2 millimeters wide. So not so much scales as they are knobs for potentially feathers, actually.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
We're talking, rather than having physical evidence of a scaly T-Rex, we have what is possibly physical evidence of actually a feathery T-Rex. So,
I have no doubt it was feathered.
Oh yeah. And even though we don't have anything like actual feathers, just you need special fossilization conditions for feathers to be preserved. And of course, China and a lot of areas in Asia have those special conditions because a lot of it is volcanic, and volcanic fossil preservation is very fine, and so it preserves intricate details very well. But of course, T-Rex is North American, where the fossilization conditions weren't as good. So whereas even though there's no feathers preserved on any T-Rex specimens we've ever found, there's still that one skin impression that does reveal that it did potentially have feathers. So I would say that right there is direct evidence that T-Rex itself was feathered.
Oh, without a doubt.
So that's my take on it anyway. And I forget exactly where I was going with that, but I guess that little fact can be taken at face value too.
Yeah, definitely, because I actually did not know there was any kind of impression for skin for Tyrannosaur.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Bandits throw that one out a lot, And of course, I was drawing feathered tyrannosaurs, and putting them on DeviantArt long before a lot of other people were, long before Tyrannus came around and, made a lot of people change their mind about, what tyrannosaurs looked like in life.
Yeah, I think Tyrannus was definitely like the sort of the deal sealer. Like once we found that dinosaur, everybody was like, a large theropod that's not like a dromaeosaur with feathers?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, that exists? And now just boom. Like the floodgates have opened thanks to you, Terra.
Oh yeah. Don't make me laugh. Bad things happen when I get in a laughing tantrum. I think you both know this pretty well.
Oh God. Oops.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm still pretty serious right now. I'm on Google I've been looking things up while we've been talking, and
I'm so serious. I'm on Google.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're making yourself laugh.
Oh no. Okay, breathe. So, anyway, kind of going back to what we were discussing before, with the way dinosaurs are depicted in culture, we were talking about Jurassic Park and Terra Nova. Let's change focus a little bit and focus on the cultural depiction of dinosaurs a little more. Of course, we've already brushed on Terra Nova and Jurassic Park, and there's also, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, a lot of the newer documentaries or more nature-oriented, fact-based media about dinosaurs that has been coming out has put a lot more effort into updating their depictions of dinosaurs, but I still think they're not really spot on. And I'll use Dinosaur Revolution as an example. I was really looking forward to Dinosaur Revolution when it was in production. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, I definitely
very
was.
Excited.
But in my opinion, what's equally as important as the physical appearance of an animal is its behavior. You can't have one without the other. And the problem with Dinosaur Revolution was it did a fairly good job of accurately depicting its dinosaurs from an anatomical perspective, but behaviorally it went the route of anthropomorphizing them to make them more appealing to younger audiences. And I think that just kind of ruined the whole idea of Dinosaur Revolution, because when you give dinosaurs behaviors that we're familiar with as people, like human-like behaviors or dog-like behaviors, it it takes away from, their actual behavior and how they may have actually acted in life, and it really ruins the validity of that, I think.
I was honestly really disappointed when I watched that. Visually, it was great. It was just I hated the behaviors.
It was terrible.
I feel that I'm the only one in this conversation that did not feel that way, because I actually will admit that it's like there was a lot of characterization of the dinosaurs and stuff.
And characterization is not what I have a problem with. It was that I think, a lot of animals have seriously have personalities. Even animals you wouldn't really think have personalities. Like, reptiles are actually a lot of reptiles do have very strong personalities. If you guys remember Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, he had his little crocodile zoo over in Australia, and he could recognize every individual crocodile in his zoo by its personality. So, reptiles do have personalities, and they do have their own natural ways of characterizing themselves, and I don't think you need to make an animal that isn't a dog or a person act like a dog or a person to make them relatable to us. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely agree with that. But the point I was going to try to make was that I believe it was said in some interviews that Dinosaur Evolution was actually intended to have the dinosaurs pseudo-anthropomorphized because they wanted it to be like a sort of a silent film thing. Like they were trying to be entertaining with it.
Well, yeah, but that's exactly what I have a problem with, because I just think that was a lot of potential they wasted by dumbing it down. Yeah. That's just me. If you like it, I don't have a problem with that,
Oh yeah, I'm just playing, I guess, devil's advocate.
I am literally offended at your opinion.
Get out of here, David. Your opinion's invalid.
It's not mathematically possible. But, I don't know, because you say it's dumbing it down. Why do you use that particular phrase? Like, I'm just wondering about this.
Well, because like I was saying, what's as important as the physical depiction of a dinosaur is its behavioral depiction. Because animal behavior and animal appearance goes hand in hand. And when you take away that behavior and replace it with something that you perceive to be more palatable to your audience, it takes away basically 50% of what makes that dinosaur a dinosaur. And so in my opinion, so much for Dinosaur Revolution revolutionizing our understanding of dinosaurs when you depict them as basically puppies and people in dinosaur suits, pretty much. That's what it feels like to me. When I was watching Dinosaur Revolution, there were some things they did a really good job on, and some things they really got well, like the Cryolophosaurus. Those I honestly really liked those. There wasn't too much anthropomorphization there. In fact, they even incorporated the whole like kangaroo kick type thing. But when they make these sounds and they do these gestures that are genuinely uncharacteristic for reptiles, it ruins the it ruins the validity of it, in my opinion. And it's not really about dinosaurs anymore, because they're not.
The Allosaurus episode was the biggest offender of that. Oh my god.
Definitely. I
felt the T-Rex episode made up for it, but
it did. There wasn't all that much I keep saying that wrong. Anthropomorphization in the T-Rex episode. But compare Dinosaur Revolution to March of the Dinosaurs. Okay, I actually really liked March of the Dinosaurs, mostly because it had feathered tyrannosaurs, but also because when you were watching, their movements and their behaviors, there was no personification to it. You looked at them, and not only did they look like dinosaurs, but they acted like dinosaurs. Everything as minor as their gait to just everything. I mean, that's just.
Why can't we just have another BBC Walking with Dinosaurs type documentary?
I know. I mean, they did such a good job at depicting dinosaurs as animals. Not as, not
as like monsters or like characters or anything, but like literally as animals.
Yeah, and in that, they were still characters without having to go to length to make them special.
Yeah.
And that's why it was widely received well, and people still talk about it.
I know. Like, take the Ornithochirus episode for example.
Oh man, I love
what if that episode were done Dinosaur Revolution style? I can imagine, I can imagine the Ornithochirus flying to the mating grounds and being shuffled off to the side by all the younger males, and when he can't get a female, instead of continuing to call until he dies, I would imagine him doing something like lowering his head and making some really goofy, sad sound,
Yeah.
Something that just totally ruins it, and that's just what I feel like Dinosaur Revolution was from start to finish.
Oh, it was such wasted potential.
I know. Just imagine.
The Pterosaur episode, I wanted to kill myself.
Oh.
The way that crocodile ran, man.
Even better, the way those sauropods ran in the Utah Raptor episode.
Don't get me started on that crap. Oh my god.
It's yeah. That was the episode that pretty much killed it for me. I mean, I had a shred of hope until that scene, and then I was just like,
they should have just cut that out and done the Therizinosaur episode.
I know.
Where it was all
Freddy
charred and burned.
Therizinosaur. That'd be so cool.
Oh man. And they had it where it was charred and burnt and all that, and skin falling off. So badass.
Oh, it was awesome. I also liked the one, I think it was with the Monolophosaurus.
Oh, yeah.
Was that, I think, because I'm thinking of the one where there was the pterosaurs and the fish.
Yeah, it was with Monolophosaurus and Darwinopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was canceled for
that
some
one
odd
looked
reason.
awesome.
That was actually really cool. I watched a little storyboard of it, and that was actually a nice story because it was a good balance of pretty much what you love and hate about the sort of Dinosaur Evolution style. Like, it had just enough sort of quirky personality to it, but it never felt like contrived or anything. Like, the behaviors, while they were very while they were very I guess you could say characterized, it still felt very natural. Like the way the Darwinopteryx was portrayed to be sort of an opportunistic scavenger that would take advantage of dinosaurs falling from the mountain and, being fairly aggressive since they were actually kind of large. It doesn't look out of place for them to be trying to harass and bully this Monolophosaurus, because all they need it to do is fall. They don't need to kill it. They just need it to fall, and they can feed on it. An animal with a lifestyle like that would probably end up being very bold, like they depicted it to be, because it has the full advantage in that situation.
Right.
And that's something that I definitely, whenever I write stories about animals, I try to put I do have a lot of personification in my stories, but I try to base it around the sort of mentality of the animal. like what, like the instincts and the behavior, like what the animal's supposed to do in its environment. I make that completely influence what kind of a personality they end up having, and it actually flows very well together. Because predatory characters are my favorite, because it's like, you know, you think they're trying to be badass and kill everything and beat everybody up all the time, but it's not about that. It's about finding that opportunity to take advantage of a situation. They're smarter than that. They're careful. They're wily. They're cunning. They have to be able to get in and get out of situations. There's so much complexity that I see in predator behavior that I think is so interesting. It's so fun to like ride around and make things based off. I wish that people would think more about that when they're trying to do things with not even dinosaurs, just animals in general, you know, to actually respond to what they are.
David, don't you know that carnivores are evil bad guys?
Yeah,
Land Before
Tooth,
Time told me. It's Sharp Tooth!
Sharp Tooth!
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Now, see, The Land Before Time was different. It was a cartoon, and the dinosaur was talking.
Oh, man.
But somehow I feel like some of these newer documentaries, like Dinosaur Revolution, they tried to blend realism with cartoon, and it just doesn't work. In my opinion, it just doesn't work. You know, and I think it is very important how dinosaurs are depicted in media, because that's what people see who don't know anything about dinosaurs, and that's what people get out of it, you know?
I'm trying to be real careful with the Great Dying, too, because I don't want it to be overly anthro, to the point where they don't act like actual dinosaurs. You know? Yeah,
there's a really fine line you have to walk. Like I was saying about sort of my creature characters, I too am working on a series of stories about dinosaurs, and I do plan for them to be talking, so there's this inherent anthropomorphization that's going to happen because they're speaking, but I want their sort of their thought processes and all of that to be more guided by instinct and things. And a lot of the characters are going to seem very immoral.
Well, that's another question. I hear a lot of people complain that, we don't want to hear or see our dinosaurs talking, but at the same time, they don't have a problem with the Lion King.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and the reason they don't is because of how dinosaurs are depicted. That when they think of talking dinosaurs, they think of like Dinky the dinosaur, like some off of The Land Before Time. Like they think it's gonna be just really childish and real, just silly and pointless. Nobody's ever tried to take dinosaurs, make them talk, and make them talk seriously. Like they've never tried to do something of that nature for a more mature audience. It's always for children. That's a general thing about dinosaurs in popular culture, is that they always gear dinosaurs towards kids. Even with Jurassic World and Jurassic Park, the movies are pretty much like advertisements for new toy lines. That's about what it's adding up to.
Dinky's getting dinky.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna hear that.
Oh yeah. Crap! I can edit that out.
No, you can't edit that out. We're talking about.
No. Oh no!
But
that's there, man.
Yeah, I'm over here.
Here's your adult dinosaur program.
Yeah, right.
Oh God!
The Coprolites.
Where we take shit
seriously.
When we say shit, we mean shit. Terrible.
Okay.
Like back to what I was saying is like the reason people don't like the idea of talking dinosaurs, or why people don't take dinosaurs seriously in media, is because every time anyone does anything, they always target children, because they know kids like dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are awesome. But it's like the more mature people, it's like you could even say kind of look down on dinosaurs, like, oh, you like dinosaurs? You're such a kid. Like there's that stigma that dinosaurs are childish in nature, when they really have no reason to be. Yeah. And
I totally agree. And it's getting to the point where it's just asinine.
Like, because it's sorry for cutting you off, Rick, but it's pretty much just like you said. A lot of these new dinosaur documentaries aren't having a lot of impact because it's like the people, I don't know, it's like they're not targeting the right people, and also the people that are getting it, they might not be getting the full brunt of it. I don't know. It's just like dinosaurs have just been dumbed down to being like kid fantasies because of just that's just what people really harp on. Nobody tries to make anything serious with dinosaurs.
Well, and it is interesting to me that Walking with Dinosaurs has had such a cultural impact, whereas all these new dinosaur documentaries that have been coming out, you don't really hear about them at all.
Yeah.
You know, like they just kind of happened and then they just became part of the massive media, you know?
Yeah, like
they don't stand out.
They don't stand out. It's like they only affect, really I guess you could say, like a subculture. Like it's just dinosaur fans who are like getting off on dinosaur evolution. Like people like people in general. Like you know, like you're not going to see someone just at the bus stop or something talking about, you know, Torosaurus versus Allosaurus. Like I don't know what
T-Rex versus Spino.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fight that always comes up. T-Rex and Spino.
Oh, no, and it's gonna be in JW.
You don't know that for sure now.
Okay.
You don't know that for sure.
Okay.
Oh God! What if they feather the Spino in JW?
Oh no! Feathering the wrong animal. Here's your feathered dinosaur.
No.
You know what?
Speaking
of Jurassic World, there actually have been a few progressions in the information that has been leaked since we discussed it in our last podcast. Do you guys want to discuss that a little bit?
Oh, definitely, because I almost took a 180.
So I think it was after our podcast, unrelated to it, of course, but after our podcast, Colin Trevorrow, there was actually an interview with him, I believe, discussing the leaked information. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think I know what you guys are talking about.
And based on what he said, I'm a little more open-minded to it than I probably was last time we talked about it. In fact, I'm actually really opening up to the whole concept of D-Rex, and to the point where I'm actually starting to look forward to seeing that guy on the big screen. I would still, rather it be Carnotaurus, but, I just have to accept that I'm not going to get Carnotaurus.
Yeah, I'm coming to terms with it. I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing D-Rex.
And that's I'm kind of almost glad that information was leaked, because now all these fans who might have been angered by it have time to really prepare for it. And so,
do we have a link to this? Because I feel like I don't remember. Like I feel like I haven't read what you guys are talking about. I remember there was one update from Colin where he pretty much was saying the same thing he said in that boiled down version, but just said it nicer and it sounded better. But I don't remember any actual new information. Like
it was, I don't know, it's been a couple of weeks, I guess.
Here, I got it right here.
Okay, cool. Because the way I feel about D-Rex is I'm not like agree with it. I think that it does have a lot of potential to be really cool. It's just I don't know how they're gonna do it. So I'm just like I'm just being cautious about it. I'm not going to give it any hype yet. I'm going to be completely subjective and wait till I see it.
Here's what I want D-Rex to be. I want it to be an animal that's been oppressed by humans to the point where you actually feel really sad for it. And then when it goes on a rampage, when it goes on a rampage, it's justified.
Yes.
And then when they kill it, you kind of feel bad for it,
Yes.
Not this
that
giant killing machine that Spino was.
See, that's what they need to do, is they need to make a sympathetic villain. That's what they really need.
I would love that.
And they could have done that with Spinosaurus, but they totally missed the ball on it. I mean, there's a lot of fan speculation that in Jurassic Park 3, the Spinosaurus's mate was killed, and that's why it was on that rampage hunting down the people who killed its mate. But that was not a part – that's just fan speculation. That wasn't actually part of the story. But that would have made the Spinosaurus a lot more sympathetic and a lot more effective as a character in the story. And so I think they should totally do something like that with the D-Rex, because it is such an outlandish concept that they really need to put some good effort into making it a sympathetic character in order to make it work. You know what I'm saying?
Totally agree.
Know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying, man?
But yeah, I do definitely agree with what Rick said, because because the way I feel about the D-Rex is that it's like it literally is a monster that's just made. So it's like they have to find a way to give it agency within the series.
Exactly.
It's honestly, it seems like they might be going that route from what you were saying. What you were saying, Rick, because it's like when they first described it in the first, I guess, leak or whatever, they were saying that it's like the company made the D-Rex because there was pressure outside from other people, like I guess benefactors and stuff, saying they wanted something that was bigger, louder, with more teeth. Pretty much, they wanted something that was going to be an abomination for some reason. I don't know why you'd want that, but they wanted something scarier, and the D-Rex is what they get.
Well,
so it's kind of
it should be like a sympathetic creature.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to go that route. We have no evidence of that, but looking at the sort of context of the D-Rex, how it's literally it technically shouldn't exist, I'm getting the impression that they're going to try something like that, and hopefully that it comes out effectively, because I think the D-Rex does have the potential to actually be more effective than Carnotaurus or something, because of the more all these different meanings and stuff that it embodies. The Carnotaurus is literally like another Jurassic Park dinosaur, but this D-Rex is more like something completely different. It really pushes the point home about the messing with genetics and stuff. It's like, it's not even a dinosaur now.
Think about it. It's a monster created to be a monster for entertainment, and so it's treated like a monster until it finally becomes a monster. I think, this discussion has actually really changed my opinion on the D-Rex, because before it's kind of just like, let's see what it is, but now I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they handle it, because definitely
I think it is actually ending up being more powerful to the spirit of Jurassic Park than another reconstructed dinosaur would.
That's kind of what I'm feeling like too, and so it just comes down to how that is going to actually be executed, and if it's going to be done well.
Well, let's hope, because
it all comes down to executed.
Let's hope Colin Trevorrow pulls a Gareth Edwards, where he makes a crappy first film, but a really good second film.
Yeah. We'll call it the Edwards effect.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have more faith in Trevorrow now than I did within the first podcast. I actually am pretty satisfied.
I'm not quite satisfied yet. I'm going to be that guy, but I'm definitely I'm more optimistic now, because hopefully this isn't just me just thinking too much into it and extrapolating my own views. Hopefully I'm going to read the article whenever we actually do it in the podcast, but I think D-Rex has much more potential now that I see it in this other light, instead of being just like, oh, well, it's just, it's kind of fun. The irony of it is that it's like, the way I see it now, it's the same way I saw it when they first announced it, but now I see the reason behind it being what it is.
Right.
And I think that it actually has a lot more potential than just pulling in another dinosaur.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But no Dilo, no deal.
Yeah, if he's not in that movie, I'm going to be like, yo, let me get that movie
I
back.
think it's about time Dilophosaurus gets a return.
In fact, I would not even be mad if he looked just like he did in the first movie. I wouldn't even be mad. At least he's back.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, at least it's not like Tyrannosaurus just snatching up his screen time. Like, yo, these people got Dookie on them. Dilo, I got this for you. Dilo's like, Dookie for real, man.
So, speaking of the D-Rex, I've actually gotten so excited for it that I've started speculating what it looks like.
Oh, it looks nice.
Yeah,
Rick's version looks nice.
Yeah, I really
So
do like
I'm going to send that to you guys here so we can discuss that a little bit. And I actually want to hear what you guys think about what you think D-Rex might end up looking like. But I'll explain my version a little bit here. So this guy, as you can see, he's more low profile and elongated than you might expect from a Rex Raptor hybrid. And I did that to really give it that more low to the ground feel, like a snake almost, because of course we're talking about the D-Rex. It's supposed to be a hybrid for our viewers who might not know. It's supposed to be a hybrid between a T-Rex, a raptor, a snake, and a cuttlefish, and we don't know what type of snake, so I just went with viper. Is the type of snake I went with. So I gave it a very viper-like head with the heat-sensing pit and the forward-facing slit eyes. I gave it some things that were characteristic of a raptor, and then like a Tyrannosaur with the crest on its head. So I tried to do my absolute best to make the most natural-looking hybrid type creature like that I could, because I'm just having trouble visualizing how that kind of hybrid might work. You know what I'm saying? It's just, how do you put T-Rex and Raptor together without making it look too contrived, you know? And that's why with my design, I actually completely avoided putting the whole retractable sickle claws on its feet. Instead opting to give it basically elongated T-Rex arms, so it still has the two fingers, but they're longer like a raptor's, because I thought that wouldn't look quite as contrived as, I guess as David put it, the toe claws would have made it look overdone.
Yeah, I don't like the whole toe claw thing.
No, it's just it's such a distinguished characteristic of raptors. It just, anytime, like even with all those like chaos effect dinosaurs, like whenever someone creates like a hybrid dinosaur, when they put a bunch of different dinosaurs together and say, hey, look at my little hybrid dinosaur, you know, even just, you know, independent artists just having fun, they always put the freaking retractable toe claws on the dinosaur's feet, and it looks so overdone, you know. And I actually have a fear that there are going to be toe claws on the actual D-Rex, but I just crossed my fingers and avoided putting them on mine because I just think it looks better that way. And my version, it is venomous like a viper, and of course it does have the forked tongue like a snake. You guys actually know that in the original Jurassic Park film, the raptors were originally intended to have forked tongues too.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. They had it in the stop motion.
Yeah.
And definitely, I believe that the raptors, like the raptor design for Jurassic Park, it's heavily inspired by monitor lizards. Because if you've ever looked at a savanna monitor or a black-throat monitor, anyone from that side of Varanus, look at the shape of the skull. It looks just like the raptor, I promise. I'm pretty sure, and plus the way the scales were and the color, I'm pretty sure it's based on that.
And then the forked tongue just kind of goes with it, you know, and so that's what my D-Rex looks like, and you know, who's to say what it's really going to look like? I don't know. I would really like my version to be the one, but you know,
I think we should honestly make it like a little challenge, not only just for us as other members of the Coprolites podcast, but also just like anyone watching the video who might be artistically inclined or maybe not. I think we should challenge the audience as well. What do you think D-Rex would look like? Like if you designed it, how would you make it? because your drawing actually makes me want to try creating some kind of a D-Rex creature because
let's do it. If any of our listeners want to take a shot at what you guys think D-Rex might look like, feel free to draw something up, post it somewhere, link it to us in the comments or something, because I'd be really interested to see.
Because the reason what I really like about your particular version, Rick, is that it does look very natural, and the way the neck and tail are proportioned and positioned, it definitely reminds me of Monolophosaurus or one of the other primitive theropods with the very elongated neck, the torso not being that fairly short legs, long arms, long tail. It looks so basal, but it's nice for that because it's like it's ironic because since it has all these other genes in it, you could consider it a theoretically more advanced dinosaur, but it's like it ends up looking so primitive
and that's just kind of what happened to come out of me just visually trying to picture what a combination of raptor and T-Rex would look like. Jurassic Park raptor and T-Rex, of course. What those would look like with a more lanky, low-slung snake-like body. And that's just what happened. And you're right, it does look very basal now that I look at it again. And I do really like that aspect of it, for sure.
Because I know that I'm not quite sure how the body is supposed to be in regards to the snake, but I do know that they said that it was supposed to have snake-like jaws. So,
yep.
Hey guys,
I think what
here's my D-Rex.
Really?
Shameless self-promotion.
That neck, though.
Right.
That's what D-Rex will look like.
It looks kind of familiar.
Oh, I know.
Looks like you stole it from one of your own other projects. I think you plagiarized yourself a little bit there.
Oh, man.
I just now thought about something with the D-Rex. The main feature of Tyrannosaurus Rex that everybody loves is his mouth. But they're giving it a snake-like mouth. I guess they're just referring to the fact that the jaw is opening wider.
I did incorporate that into my design, by the way, even though I don't show it. His jaws are supposed to be able to dislocate. But anyway, continue.
I'm thinking about how much this snake DNA is going to influence the shape of the head, assuming that it's based off Tyrannosaurus.
Well, I have actually heard that it's like a beefed-up Machikosaurus.
Beefed up.
Machikosaurus.
Magicosaurus.
Whatever.
Oh.
That weird dinosaur with like that hooked jaw.
Yeah. I think I've always pronounced it Masiacosaurus, but...
Man, I've heard it like 3 different pronunciations. Which one's the right one?
I just didn't know what you were saying at first because you pronounce it differently than I do. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's kind of what I hope the skull kind of looks like.
Did you hear that from somewhere?
It was from those insiders.
Huh.
But I seriously do hope it looks like that. It kind of would look cool. In my honest opinion.
It would actually. I mean, I wouldn't see... It would seem to me to deviate a little bit from what it's supposed to be, but...
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that, especially since Masiacosaurus, its lower jaw kind of curves down, almost lets that forked tongue slip out between the teeth there.
Yeah, true. And it does kind of have that look as if it could detach.
Maybe it's in reference to the fact that the D-Rex will have teeth that will actually be protruding farther down its lower jaw.
That's what
I don't know. I didn't hear about that. Otherwise, I would have incorporated that into my design a little more. But I guess that is just a rumor, so I shouldn't.
Just a rumor.
I shouldn't pain myself too much about it. That's interesting, though. Those insiders, I tell ya.
Yeah, I don't really take the credibility for them anymore.
Even though apparently everything they leaked about the D-Rex and all that was confirmed as...
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean,
it's supposed to be very different from a T-Rex and a raptor. If Universal wants this to be an iconic creature, sort of like how the newborn was in the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like the design.
Yeah. What I meant for is, I took the whole snake head idea to heart, and I made its head look more like a snake's than a dinosaur's. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. What do you guys think it might look like, the D-Rex?
Because I'm thinking that there's definitely going to be a lot of T-Rex in the D-Rex, but it's going to be very, I guess deformed is the only word I could use for it, because I do feel like since they're going to try to get a snake-like mouth, I assume they want it to be able to open its jaws really wide, so it could, I don't know, bite the head off another dinosaur clean or something. Because like the way I would try to draw it is like I would start with a Jurassic Park T-Rex head, and then I would start widening the jaw and flattening the jaw, seeing how it looks. Because like you know how the JP Rex has those really exaggerated brow ridges. I imagine that if the head was kind of flattened and depressed in just the right ways, they would stick up and they would look like horns, and that would really push that Diablo devil aesthetic with it. And like some of the ridges on the snout be really bumpy and stuff. And luckily, I really like snakes, and I'm pretty good at drawing snakes. I could probably find a way to integrate that into a dinosaur design. I'm not gonna lie though, I really like how you had the neck tail be really long, and since there's snake DNA, I'm not sure how much of the snake they're using, but if it's more than just the jaw, then I think it would be almost guaranteed that it at least has a prehensile tail that can constrict people. I think that like there's going to be like I'm pretty sure if the snake they're going to choose is going to be like some kind of like boa or a python, some kind of large snake.
Well, and I will say this, I actually hope they don't go that direction, because in real life, for as long as a snake is, they actually constrict with their torso, not their tail. Their tail is only as long as from their anal spurs to the very end. So you're talking if you have like a 4 to 6 foot ball python, you only have just a few inches at the end of its body that's actually the tail.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they're trying to integrate the snake features onto a dinosaur.
Yeah,
I don't imagine them actually giving the dinosaur the torso of a snake. I don't think they're going to.
Right. Well, I guess what you're saying is it's kind of like giving the D-Rex 2 torsos. You have the dinosaur torso, and then the tail, which is actually another torso that has to be the snake. I don't know. It just biologically, there's a lot of issues there. Right. But I know that they, it's Jurassic Park. I'm sure they would totally disregard that.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Like, if they use any more of the snake than just the jaw, I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being either the neck or tail being really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and again, we'd have no idea what type of snake they're going to go with. So it could be a constrictor, and it could be a viper or something.
It could end up being a freaking cobra, and then the thing having like a hood or something.
I actually considered that when I was drawing my design, and I thought, that would be cool, but I'm actually terrible at drawing things like that, so I just was like, no, I'll just go with Viper.
It would pretty much just be Dilophosaurus wannabe then.
Yeah, and because they know that they need to bring it back, but it's too small to be scary, and they fucked up, so...
Bullcrap!
Let's make it a new dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, D stands for Dilophosaurus. That's what it stands for.
Oh, God.
Dilophosaurus Rex.
It's from Hawaii, and it lived in the late Cretaceous just before the asteroid hit. It was born. It fed on Triceratops. Chiefly, we see stomach contents containing entire horns and frills. It probably just ate only the head.
And this is the reason why God threw the asteroid. This abomination of nature was never meant to live. It was never meant to reproduce.
But
he found a specimen
the
with a broken
geneticists
pelvis,
at Jurassic World recreated it. Oh my goodness.
Diabolus Rex.
We're going up with our own storyline here.
Oh man, I'm liking where this is going.
Yeah, this is our sequel. Let's do it.
It's like that. It's like those the stupid meme with the guy with a surprise face, and he's like, "What if?" insert something random. Well, what if the Diabolus Rex is a Dilophosaurus?
Oh my god.
What if it was a real dinosaur? What if the government's hiding InGen? What if the government is InGen?
Oh dear.
Terrible. They're genetically modifying our food. What if we're eating dinosaurs?
Oh, there you go.
No.
The conspiracy
Kentucky
is on
Fried Paleosaurs. That's what it really is.
We are no longer the Coprolites. We are the conspiracy dinosaur troopers.
Yes. Conspiracy dinosaur troopers. That was really pulled out of your ass.
Yeah, that was. That was the stupidest thing I've ever said.
The conspiracy dinosaur troopers.
Oh Lord! And the friggin' U's are going at it on my computer, man.
Oh.
Like, look down at the type. Like, does it say that I'm typing right now? 'Cause I'm not.
It does say that you're typing, actually.
Yeah, the computer is typing. Computer does what it wants, man. See, it's like the computer's retaliating because I found out that InGen is the government. So now it's like, you know too much.
They're hacking your computer, man.
Oh no!
Obama's like, I didn't tell you about my stimulus package. He's like, you didn't tell me it was dinosaurs. The time for a change, David. The Archosauria
are probably
again.
like, what the fuck?
Jurassic World. Hope. Time for change.
Obama would be like, I had an epiphany. What if we gave the planet back to the reptiles?
It was their land 65 million years ago.
Survival will be affordable for everyone.
Oh my god.
Oh, that one killed me right there.
Oh. Survival will be affordable for all. That was good.
Okay. Breathe.
Oh god.
It's funny because it's like the haves and the have-nots. Are we talking about scales? Or primaries?
Oh man.
Okay. So.
Oh no. Oh no.
Stop laughing.
Sorry, that little noise Marty made, that was funny. He like motorboated himself.
So, in addition to discussing D-Rex a little bit, and I'm actually going to go back and pull up these plot details that Trevorrow talked about. He also discussed the whole idea of tamed dinosaurs a little bit, because apparently that's confirmed too.
Oh.
Air quote tamed.
Let's see where he talks about that.
He said that that Owen character was studying the raptors. And then he later said that, just because the T-Rex... What did he say?
I'm trying to find it here.
He said just because the T-Rex kills people and then sometimes accidentally saves them or something like that doesn't mean he's a hero or something.
Yeah, it was saying
I'm
that
really
the dinosaurs aren't good or bad. He was saying that the dinosaurs aren't all.
Okay, here we go. The interviewer asked Trevorrow, what are the relationships between the main characters and the dinosaurs? Are there good guy and bad guy dinosaurs in the movie? And this is what Trevorrow responded. He said there's no such thing as good or bad dinosaurs. There are predators and prey. The T-Rex in Jurassic Park took human lives and saved them, and that is true.
Yes.
No one interpreted her as good or bad. This film is about our relationship with animals, how we react to the threat they pose to our dominance on Earth as a species. We hunt them, we cage them in zoos, we admire them from afar, and we try to assert control over them. Chris Pratt's character is doing behavioral research on the raptors. They aren't trained. They can't do tricks. He's just trying to figure out the limits of the relationship between these highly intelligent creatures and human beings. If people don't think there's potential in those ideas, maybe they won't like this movie. But I asked them to give it a chance. And when I read that, I was like, okay, that makes sense, you know?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
That makes sense. And considering, you know, especially since the Jurassic Park raptors are supposed to be so freaking intelligent anyway, it's hard to not believe that they couldn't go the route of being domesticated in a way.
Right.
You know? Like, I mean, they have a similar structure to dogs, or to wolves rather, to where just like dogs have been domesticated, they could almost be domesticated, where humans take over that dominant pack role for dogs. It could be the same way with the raptors, where the humans take over that dominant role for them, you know?
And what I said, like with dogs, they just bred the aggressiveness out with each individual.
Yeah.
So it's really not as far-fetched as you may think it is.
Not really, you know, and so if they did it right and explained it thoroughly enough, I think it could go over very well.
The reason it doesn't is because of the choice of words. When you use the word tame raptor, it does.
It has a lot of negative connotations just because it sounds totally cheesy.
I will admit, even domesticated raptors still sounds kind of bad, but at least with domestication, you know it doesn't happen overnight. It's a very long process.
Yeah.
Like selective breeding and training and things like that.
It's not so silly.
It's still, I still think it is kind of silly, but it's at least at the same time, it's like, it's actually fairly realistic, because what you have to do to domesticate or be able to deal with an animal in general, you have to understand it, and you have to be able to communicate with it on its terms. And that seems to be what the character is trying to do, to try to understand the sort of raptor behavior and like the sort of social, like what it's like to be a raptor. So that it's like, you know, he's not trying to tame it and be friends with it, but he wants to know how to communicate with it in a way other than I am prey or I am a threat. It's like he wants to know how raptors actually communicate with each other because of how intelligent they're depicted being.
Yeah, and like Trevorrow said, they are not trained and they can't do tricks. So it's really going to be a more subtle type of interaction between them.
Honestly,
you know?
What it's reminding me of right now from what we're saying, I still need to read the article, it sounds like pretty much this character can be compared to a bird. Because, you know, it's like just because you can mimic the call of a bird and probably like do it good enough to call a bird to you, you're not friends with that bird. That bird doesn't care about you or like you. It responded to the call, and it thought you were something you weren't. So it's like pretty much, it's not so much that they're like taming and befriending the raptor, so as they're learning what it is, like how they communicate and how they behave, so that they can trick the raptors into accepting them, at least temporarily. Right. Like at least long enough to be managed. You know?
Here's something I just thought of too. Of course, in the first two movies, and the Jurassic Park fan base has, because in the first two Jurassic Park movies, the raptors were basically the same, whereas in Jurassic Park, their design was changed. So, as a fan base, we segregated those into different species. You had Velociraptor nublarensis, which were the raptors on Isla Nublar and Sorna that were that didn't have any quills, and they were the ones that the females were gray and the males were kind of tiger striped. And then you had Velociraptor sornensis, which were the ones where the males had the quills and the females were the ones that were white and black. And there was a distinction between the behavior of the two species. Nublarensis was much more of a brutish species. They quarreled with each other a lot, and they were generally just more barbaric, I guess you could say.
They were intelligent and barbaric.
Yeah, whereas the Sornensis raptors, they had some serious structure to their group, and to the point where they even ended up reasoning with the humans at the end of Jurassic Park 3, where they left them alone after they got their eggs back. They could have killed them, you know. They could have slaughtered them all, like the Nublarensis raptors probably would have done. But instead, the alpha female came right up to them and, in her own raptor kind of way, reasoned with them that she wanted her eggs back, and that's all she wanted, you know? And then they were able to communicate with the raptors by signaling for help with that little resonating chamber. So in a way, we already have a degree of this raptor-human interaction that's going to be in Jurassic World. It's already been happening in the Jurassic Park franchise. And so it's already there. The foundation for it was established in Jurassic Park 3. Whether or not that's the basis Trevorrow is working off of or not. And it's just going to be expounded upon in the new movie. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And I guess another question, too, somewhat related, is do you guys think the raptors in Jurassic World are going to be Nublarensis or Sornensis?
That's actually a very good question. I have no idea. I would think they'd be the Sorna ones because, you know, that's like the last movie and you know, the Sorna ones are supposed to be, you know, more accurate than the Nublar ones. So I feel like at the same time, Trevorrow is going for nostalgia. So it may be what I would like to see is if he brought back both of them. That's what I would like to see, to really show that they are both, you know, that they really are two distinct species in the same canon, you know, to kind of clean up the mess that Jurassic Park 3 created, you know, just out of nowhere coming up with these new raptors with no explanation for why they're different from the other ones, you know.
You know, I wanted to bring that up too because I kind of want to see interaction between the two species, sort of like how wolf packs interact with different wolf packs.
Oh, that'd be so awesome! That is what I would want to see.
I would imagine the new
like
Walruses would kick their ass though, but I don't know. I would imagine, yeah. I just hope the tiger stripe ones come back.
Yeah. I hope they come back and get a little bit of redemption because they're so stupid.
Yeah.
Like I said, they were the ones in the Lost World Jurassic Park were the same as the ones in Jurassic Park 1.
Yeah,
in fact,
they were the males.
In the Lost World Jurassic Park, there was a mix of males and females. So there were the striped ones, but like one of the ones that went after Ian Malcolm was female.
Yeah. And
she was the same gray-brown color that the females in Jurassic Park were. And so they're the same species, and so we can see in the first film that they do have some degree of coordination, but they're at the same time more brutish and probably not quite as good at decision-making.
Yeah.
As the Sornensis raptors are. Like, I almost want to say that if it was a Sornensis raptor that had been going after Tim and Lex in the kitchen, he wouldn't have been quite so fooled by like the reflection in the you know, the metal, aluminum, whatever it was. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten himself trapped in the freezer. You know, maybe he would have just responded to the Tim and Lex's diversions a lot more intelligently, a lot more consciously.
Yeah, what I noticed, the main highlight of the raptors in Jurassic Park 3 was that they were able to set traps, and I believe that if it was a Sornoraptor or a couple of them in the first movie, absolutely everybody would have died because they would have set something up and they would have ended up inadvertently walking into some kind of a setup. They would, like, the people, they wouldn't be able to, react to it because the raptors planned ahead. And that's something that the Nublar raptors we see didn't do. They reacted and responded to stimuli.
I don't think they would have been able to set a trap, quite frankly.
To give them credit, though, they were locked up most of the time, so they didn't really know their surroundings.
True.
Well, in the first movie, anyway. In the second movie, they'd already been on the loose for years. And they were on Sorna anyway, so it's not like they were ever cooped up in the first place, because it seems to me like Sorna was always a place where they were more free range, and whenever they needed dinosaurs for the actual park on Nublar, they would just go in and wrangle some. Yeah. That's what it seemed like to me. So it's not like the Nublar raptors on Sorna were ever really cooped up like the two or the three rather in the first film were. So.
Yeah, those are definitely all good points, because at least we know from the Nublar raptors that in the first movie, they even though they might not have known their surroundings very well, they were definitely very adaptable, because obviously they learned how to open the door. That was like the main big thing.
Right,
and, they figured out how to respond to their environment, but again, it's responding to where the JP3 raptors, they were able to
manipulate their environment.
Yeah, they could manipulate it, and they could anticipate things. That was what the
much more structured, much more rational.
Yeah.
I would say the Nublar raptors were very irrational, intelligent but irrational.
Yep.
Whereas the Sornoraptors were intelligent and rational, and. I don't know. I really just as a fan, I'm really hoping that we see both of those raptors return and that we see some interaction between the two. But I just feel like that's not going to happen, and I feel like it's going to be the Nublar raptors that return, since Trevorrow is going for nostalgia. That's my prediction, but we'll see.
Yeah, if we were given a choice between the two, I would have chosen Nublars.
So anyway,
yeah, I probably would have chosen anyway, just because it's like, let's get these back, and let's kind of like, again, it's all about the nostalgia, so they probably are going to be the ones returning.
All right, well, our 2 hours is just about up here, so we're out of time. Thank you, listeners, for joining us on this podcast tonight. We hope you enjoyed us laughing too much.
Marty, edit that out.
Sure.
I mean, we keep some of it, but like,
I don't know, man.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
It was fun.
And don't forget the D-Rex submissions. We'd like to see your take
Yes,
on it.
We would love to see the D-Rex submissions. Your computer is growing a mind of its own.
I mean, it was possessed.
It really is.
That's true.
Honestly, I would say that my computer is possessed, because it just does whatever it wants.
We were right. We need the holy water.
Honestly, I was trying to open up Skype, and it wouldn't let me because of all the U's. I was there'd be so much concentration on the letters, the computer would actually kind of lag from me trying to pull up Skype, because
so much concentration, too much, I can't handle it. 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Coprolites.
Really?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for.
Hi.
No. Why?
Why did you tell us this, David?
No, I was just trying to tell you why I called you. I couldn't respond because the user wouldn't let me.
I'll be right back. I'm going to take a drink, and then I'll be ready to go.